Something to talk about over dinner tonight with Hawaii's Tomorrow Today. That's Hawaii's Tomorrow Today.
Nothing you can do that can't be done. There's nothing you can sing that can't be sung. Nothing you can play but learn how to play the game. It's easy. All we need is aloha. All we need is aloha. All we need is aloha. Aloha's all we need. 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 And with that, I'd like to say aloha. Aloha. Welcome back to Hawaii's Tomorrow. I'm your solar guy, quote unquote, Jeff Davis. Today I'm about to be your, shucks, I don't know how to describe it. I'm going to be doing some issues when corporations want to move into your backyard and what the ramifications of that might be, whether it be GMO as of yesterday. Thank you so much for my guest yesterday. Now, Jerry DiPietra called in, and she is GMO Free Hawaii, one of the original founders. 10 years they've been fighting this GMO issue on Kauai. There were some articles in the paper about how some of these pesticides have been banned in the entire European Union. They're going just fine on Kauai. And also marine biologist Terry Lilly came on to talk to us, so he'll be back on Friday. A lot from Kauai. Today's going to be from Kauai. You got to love that. Not on purpose, it just happens that way. And I'm going to be talking about some folks that would prefer that AT&T not come into the backyard and put a cell phone tower up. We'll talk about those issues. And there will be some more from both Lori Patch, and she's the ex-director of the, she is the executive director of Princeville Properties. She's a self-described soccer coach and grandmama. Felicia Towden will be with us. She's a radio host. I love this. I'll be able to talk to another radio host. She's also a community activist, and she's a host on KKCR Radio on Kauai. And so before I get there, here's a few things in the news. Let me go there. Biggest news I heard recently was Wes Wada won the Hawaii Energy You Are the Greenest, Baddest, whatchamacallit in the Valley. Now Wes Wada, not surprisingly, has been on my show, has hosted my show, so I found it before you did, Hawaii Energy. Wes will be coming on my show in the future, so well, I'm sure he was. I'm going to make him. And we're going to talk about how he became a superstar when it comes to energy efficiency. I love that idea. They finally made it to the paper, ladies and gentlemen, today. 5 days after the legislators failed to reform solar tax credit, threw it in the garbage can, here we are on the money page with a whole new advertiser. I want to thank the advertiser, by the way. Sometimes I'll take it out of them for being a one-horse newspaper, but at the same time, they really provide me with, and most of it, if you read the paper, you learn something. Maybe not everything. As you read the paper, don't believe everything you read in the paper. Well, don't believe everything you hear on Hawaii's Tomorrow either. Legislatures failed to reform solar tax credit. For the second straight year, lawmakers failed to come to an agreement. Now, unsurprisingly, I was on the phone yesterday with Senator Mike Gabbard about what had happened, etc., etc. We're reporting on this. And basically, Mr. Gabbard went on to say, as he did in the paper today, it was disappointing considering all the work. Why didn't they get it done? Mike, are you upset about this? Yes, I'm upset about an expletive deletive. When it came down to it, we lacked the data on the cost benefits. So, although the State Department of Taxation could not produce actual data, they are the ones who wanted it to stay where it is today, about half the credit. And then when I say they, that goes right back to the governor's office. Now, since the governor was the one all upset, perhaps he didn't appreciate people trying to step in. I don't know. Please come on the show, Governor, and explain it to us. But anyway, the quote-unquote from Robert Harris Sierra Club, the issue was imminently solvable, but they just weren't able to do it. Sierra Club and Earth Justice will continue their lawsuit. You know what? I swear to God, I'm going to quit this job. Well, it's not a job unless you get paid. But I'm going to quit doing this because it's turning me into a negative person because I'm looking at the dysfunctionalism of so many of our government. That's depressing. I wish I could win the lottery, and then I will just move to a world and never have to listen to all this crap again. Let it all go down the drain in a handbasket. Go to hell without me. Because I'm not getting a lot of sunshine, put it that way, on my otherwise cloudy days. All right, that's what's going on with solar. By the way, I am the solar guy. If you need me, get a hold of me. There is a solar credit, and it still works. It's even better for some people because they left it at 35% rather than at 30%. Well, you'll have to talk to me if you want to get into that. Real quick, attempt to extend the state's media shield law. This is a law that prevents someone pulling you into court and saying, "Who told you that? Who told you that?" In which case, nobody wants to tell you anything because they might get pulled into court. So that is bad. And again, this is another cloud on a otherwise sunny, shiny day. Here's an article by Sidney Ross Singer, Native versus Non-Native Dogma. So what he's talking about are the koa moths that invaded 30,000 acres of koa on the Big Island. It's wiping them out up to 35%. And what are we doing about it? Nothing. The moth is native, so hands off. That's right, if you're a native species, you are protected, even if you are a pest. To the koa trees, of course, it doesn't matter if the moth is native or not, he goes on to say. Anyway, bringing to light a very interesting conundrum, you know, what's up with that. And now finally, before I do get to my guests, and thank you so much for your patience, guests, this is some interesting stuff in letters to the editor. One of them, this is quick. Hanabusa shouts the same. Who cares if they're running against each other? They're both the same puppets of the blah blah. Cartoon insulted Bush Library. Yeah, they had a cartoon. Basically, I think they had Donald Rumsfeld in there torturing somebody. You know what? The Bush administration insulted everybody on this planet, especially the ones who lost lives in Iraq, Afghanistan, and I don't mean just our brothers and sisters, the children and everybody else, the tens and hundreds of thousands of people who live in those countries who got wiped out by Bush and his military-industrial complex corporate world. So, insult the Bush Library? Ha! Cannot be done. Here's a guy, I like this guy, Jim Growney in Diamond Head, says, the rich invest in early education. And I've been saying the same thing. And the new public school law is no rich child left behind. Of course, no rich child left behind, because the rich folks are going to send their kids into education and preschool right away. And they're not even going to take them to the damn excuse for public education we have. They're going to send them to private schools, where they might even teach them what the Constitution really means instead of how to recite it. On and on. And then, let me introduce my guest, because these next two letters are all about GMO. And we're not going to go to GMO yet. I'll save that till later. Let me introduce my guest anyways. I am your solar guy, if you don't know who I am. And our show's going off every day here at 5:05, 7 days a week. I do replay the weekends. And we are learning something here. Let me tell you. I'm an expert on almost everything, enough to shoot myself in the foot. And, you know, I had some people sending in comments. And I just have to say that don't expect perfection here. I didn't ask for this job, and I don't pay anything, and it just happened. So let's make the best of it. With that in mind, I would like to introduce my guest today. And let's do age before beauty. First one, Lori Patch, Executive Director of the Princeville Properties, soccer coach, grandmama, and a local resident of Kilauea, Kauai. Aloha, Lori. Welcome back to Hawaii's Tomorrow.
Aloha, Jeff, and thank you so much for having me on. And I just want to ask the Lighthouse Christian Fellowship, Elite Wireless, and AT&T, where's your aloha?
Okay.
We don't want an 80-foot, 8-story cell phone, a 4G cell phone tower in our backyard, which is going to be immediately adjacent to the Kauai Christian Academy. And just like you spoke before, our government works for the people, not big business. And in a democracy, the people are vested with the ultimate decision-making power. Government agencies exist to aid the people in the formation and conduct of public policy. So we are going to fight this cell phone tower.
All right,
We're going to win.
I got to tell you, it sounds like you listened to my show because you were smart enough to start talking before I started. You really were. Good job.
I like your show, Jeff. Thank you.
All right, and then I'm going to let you get right back into it as soon as I introduce Felicia Towden. Felicia, are you with us today?
I'm here.
I'm excited because you're a radio host on KKCR Radio on Kauai.
Yes.
Community activist is how I got you down here. You can tell us more about it, but say hello and then do tell us something about yourself.
Well, I've listened to a lot of different people from our community. We bring many issues forward, and this cell tower issue is very similar to GMO and really fracking and what's going on with the Big Island with the geothermal development, where the health and safety of the community is hijacked from governance, from the state and local people by federal regulations. And so that's a piece that's very interesting. And I do live very adjacent to this particular cell tower, but I'm looking at it from not only my own well-being, but how this applies to any place in our state here, of how we should be able to set up ordinances that place these towers, which we do use, in a safe zone.
All right, let me help set the stage a little. I was on the property about a week ago. Man, I miss your part of town. Let me tell you. So I was in Kilauea, and I drove down to the lighthouse to see the birds and this beautiful ocean view over there. And I'm driving by these houses, and there's all these signs in the yard that says, "Get your cell phone towers out of here." Well, what the hell is that? Next thing you know, I'm reading in the newspaper, and that's how I got a hold of Lori. I went out to the property. I went to the church. I met the folks at the church briefly. I spent about 5 minutes there because they want to put a cell phone tower, AT&T, and they came in here well over a year ago. By the way, girls, I talked to I can't get to the fellow Reverend or whoever he is, Mr. Smelling, but I get his secretary well enough, and she answers and says, "Oh, he probably won't be able to talk to you at today or whatnot." And she goes, "I know who you are. You're the guy who called last time." And so the bottom line, I can't get any comment from them. In fact, I get the notion they think I'm coming after them, and I really wish that wasn't the notion.
Well, they haven't. They don't even come to the pastor doesn't even come to the meetings that the planning commission is putting forward, or the neighborhood association. He is very much staying behind the scenes.
Okay, now, at the same time, the secretary, who's knowledgeable, obviously, about this, she says, at least from their perspective, she says, we had this hearing a year and a half ago, and there was no pushback at that time. So I guess.
Well, they say that. This is Felicia, and I actually did give pushback. And what is required is for them to send out certified letters to people who are within a certain distance from it. But if you're not there to sign it, or for whatever reason, like I got my letter the day after they did a neighborhood association meeting, but I did go over to the church. I talked to them. I called Keone Fox from the LEE wireless company, and they got about a 2-month interaction with me as I did go around to the neighbors and talk to them about it and bring forward concerns. And they did know that there was resistance. I did put this effort out in 2011, and it's just a point of convenience that they say that it didn't happen, because that actually is not true.
Let's not draw it out too long. Let's get some short answers, because here's the point. So what?
Right.
I mean, is that a bad on you? Okay, my bad. Now let's go forward and let's go where we got to go. In other words, does that preclude anything?
Absolutely not.
And why are we even talking about that? And why would anybody use it as a spurious argument to say, well, what's the point here?
Right.
The point is that you guys waited too long for their point of view to express your dislikes, but so be it. It is what it is, correct?
We had an awakening, Jeff.
Okay.
We truly
Now let's
did.
talk about the awakening. First of all, Lori, you had me up to your home, and next time you have to feed me. And I did a radio show out of there, and it was about the cell tower. Now, so first I went to the church area, where I met some cordial folks, and it looked like a nice big piece of property to me. And then I went to your front yard, which is completely adjacent. It's not just your front yard. There's an entire subdivision there, I think 45 homes, and then people in other directions. And yes, it's true, you are butted right up against their property. They want to put a, what did you say, 85-foot 4G cell tower in there from AT&T?
80 feet.
80-foot tower. Now you tell us what's wrong with that.
Well, it's 8 stories tall, and that violates the zoning violation of the variant. Most of the class zoning permits, and I'm going to read this here. I'm so sorry, I'm a little nervous, but it's the CZO is 25 feet, and then they'll allow 40 feet utilities. So it does go against the comprehensive zoning ordinance. So we have to use the law because, as you know, we cannot use health issues to fight this.
No, I don't know what you mean by not being able to use health issues.
I think that there's a real key piece in this.
The 1996 Telecommunications Act does not allow us to use environmental nor health issues to oppose putting up cell towers. We can't even fight for the birds. And
you can't fight for the birds. I tell you what, that's the same corporate stuff that got Monsanto a get-out-of-jail card, did they not?
Well, that's exactly right.
For the GMO thing, that didn't they just get an exemption for being sued?
Well, it's very similar. And the Clean Skies Act, the Clear Skies Act and the Clean Water Act that protects fracking is very similar. It preempts local governments from protecting local people from whatever way these cell towers could be put in places. And I think what's really critical here, and I have something in front of me called leaseadvisors.com, and that's, you see how it is just a private property issue. The telecommunications companies can approach anyone they want, basically like a church, a school, a property that's got enough room, a graveyard, and offer them a deal, and those people can say, okay, sure, yes, you can put this cell tower in my backyard. And then it's not up for public approval, not really. The only reason this even came forward in public approval is because it's taller than what the zoning is. So they have to get a variance and a permit to go taller.
Okay, I think you're right. That has a huge bearing. You're telling me that this thing would have just suddenly, they would have started, their crew would have shown up and started working on it if it hadn't been for the size of it?
right. Right.
Okay, now that's the crux of this, because, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, if I'm not mistaken, there are very many people who have issues with the idea of whether it's healthy or not to be anywhere near a cell phone tower. Am I correct?
Correct, Jeff. And the North Shore Development Plan has an ordinance, and it's clear about the 20-foot height limit. So that's the key that we're using. And right now, we have to change our strategy. So we're going to use negative economics, aesthetics, tourism effects. Cell towers become eyesores. They obstruct and tarnish cherished views. They can attract crime, and they're noise nuisances. See, most people think it's just a big tree, but there is a base station that makes a constant noise with a generator that works 24 hours a day. There's also fire hazards. They do catch on fire. And then kids want to climb them, and there's fall hazards.
Well, you guys sound like you're just sitting around all night trying to figure every reason in the book. But what about the helicopter that might crash into it accidentally and his family, and what will happen to them? So you get where I'm going with it?
Right.
Here's what I get out of it. And you tell me what you think, because obviously you're grasping at straws. If they won't let you come at them for the most obvious thing that says, this stuff is not proven whether or not it's going to have good effect on you or not. I know if I put one in my microwave and use the same microwaves, it will cook me. Is there any scientific studies that have been done whether or not this stuff's good for your health?
Well, there have been. And then it's very similar to the genetic, GMO issue, because there's a whole host of studies that says these chemicals are bad for people, and then is the burden of proof, like, you have to give irrefutable proof that that's the damage. So when we have multiple toxins in our society, who really knows why people get autism or cancer or early Alzheimer's, or there's all kinds of immune system
Okay, that is to me that's very valid. And then there's something that everybody can understand. If they throw an 80-foot tower up in your neighborhood, it's quite possible, if not given, that your property value goes down. Is that correct?
That is correct. And like when this is adjacent to 2 schools, one is a preschool, one is a preschool through 12, it impacts whether families want to send their kids to those schools. Or they're next to, oddly, they have a metal church themselves. They're next to another metal church. One day a week for a few hours is probably less damage than going to school every day. But it impacts business.
Okay.
Jeff, you yesterday on your show, you had a clip from Network, and
Oh, wait a minute. Hang on now. Don't be stealing my thunder like that.
I want to tell you, you've got to get mad. Our lives have value, and it's insane that they won't let us use the health effect. I was just at the planning department today and basically cryptically told, stop using the health effects. I've watched the hearing over and over and watched Keone Fox as we testified. Every time we talked about health, he was writing in his notes. But then when we talked about the view plane, he looked at Kathleen Beverly and nodded like, yes, we could use that.
Just like we do. We no longer live in a world of nations and ideologies, Mr. Beale. The world is a college of corporations, inexorably determined by the immutable bylaws of business. The world is a business, Mr. Beale. It has been since man crawled out of the slime.
All right, so there you go. And that basically sums it up, every single thing that we have from people trying to protect themselves or their property values or whatnot against corporations. This.
Well, I mean, I think that there is a lot of effort that is trying to reclaim the rights of the human being as opposed to the rights of the corporations. They have, been given status as citizens.
People. Yeah, they can put as much money as they want without revealing who they are individually. Hence the PRC or the PLDC or no.
PLDC is one thing.
No, it was the Michael White and his thing where they were saying all these bad things about Ben Cayetano, but they couldn't. You never knew who was saying it. And obviously, it was the people who wanted to build a rail. They get millions of dollars, and the Supreme Court has said that corporations are people, basically, individuals. And that's completely 100% of the direction we want to get away from, is that not?
Yeah.
Because as you just heard Mr. Beale here being lectured, that the world there are no countries, there's only corporations. And there are no people. It's all about money.
Well, I think that the encroachment of what people will call the oligarchy or the corporatocracy is very significant. And it seems that, like, the war between the governments and the corporations have won. And the citizens are the victims.
I really don't see a war between the corporations and the government. I see the corporations giving the government politicians money in order to create legislation.
Well, that's what I mean. They've won. Is that the corporations basically run the corporate
I see
government.
what you're saying. And that's, of course, my proposition was to put copper and encircle all the bodies of the people spinning in their graves from our Declaration of Independence forward, wrap them in copper, and light up the East Coast with the revolutions per minute they're spinning. These people are spinning in their graves to see what have occurred to their dream and their Constitution and their Declaration of Independence. That stuff's just gone.
And Hawaii is like an occupied nation within an occupied nation.
Okay, again, Felicia and Lori, we're talking again about the idea that if it hadn't have been for a height restriction, that one day they would have heard the drilling and they would have had a cell phone tower in their backyards and in their neighbors' backyards in Kilauea, Kauai.
And in many places, like especially on Oahu, they are simply installed in a tall building. And when I went chasing down the path of phone numbers from Keone Fox, Ali'i Wireless, trying to, at that point, earnestly determine, is there danger in this or is there not? Like, I'd like to not worry about it. This isn't recreational for me. And so as I called all these different numbers, basically they said, well, they're in hospitals and hotels, resorts, churches are the typical places where they are located. And then there's not even anything about a tower. There is no notice that's given out. So you could be in the penthouse of a tall building and they just put that right on the top of
Well, I
your
gotta tell you,
building.
there's a lot of people out there right now just going, so what, lady? It's just a bloody cell tower. You probably have a phone. And of which, of course, you do. But when I was there, I already had good coverage. They haven't built it yet. I had AT&T in your living room.
Yeah, you sure did, and that was what...
But again, AT&T does have some problems with coverage on Kauai. Of course, Kauai's got a lot of open land. It seems like it might be easier to put it somewhere where it's not going to have any issues. The question also being, how are they going to sell AT&T programs if everybody hates their guts? Second, also, why does the church not just take your side? What's going on with that? How much, in other words, they won't talk to me except the secretary, and she does so in a very curt and polite way, as if to say, we know you are against us. And at the same time, it's not that much money involved. I presume they're going to pay him a monthly rent for the tower.
Right.
And you would just... I just can't get it. How come the church is so mum on this? What's the thing about the money? They really need that extra $1,500 a month or whatever?
Well,
You know, we don't know.
The land is estimated at $1.5 million property.
Yeah, I think it's 18 acres or so.
Right. And I've lived in Kilauea for about 21 years, and I've never seen this pastor. Like, I love to go to church, and we go out to Hanalei, and we pray for people, and we feed the poor, and we give presents at Christmas.
You're taking a long time to answer a simple question, gang.
It's a simple question, but he's an absentee landowner as far as I'm concerned.
So the answer to the question is you have no idea why.
The answer to the question is kind of we have no idea why.
We don't know what kind of church it is in regards to their philosophy.
Well,
Their community service. They think that putting up an AT&T 80-foot cell tower is service to the community.
it's not, it's doing God a favor. The Tower of Babel. My God, if you guys could see Lori's living room the other day when I was out there, she had all these posters she had generated.
Well, we are protesting every Sunday morning. It's really effective because more and more people are becoming aware. There is an awakening. We
Okay.
have more time now that the hearing has been delayed. There won't be a hearing on May 14th, so this just gives us more time to get the people together. Kilauea is going to be celebrating its 100-year anniversary for the lighthouse and a 150-year anniversary for the town.
Okay, hang on. Okay, because again, a lot of people are wondering, what the hell are you doing? This isn't big news. This is something small. This is in somebody's little backyard in Kilauea. I want to make it real quick for people to understand. This is a micro of the macro.
That's right.
And this is a perfect example of what's about to happen in your backyard if you don't get an education.
And probably what has happened all around you.
Oh, yeah.
And
it's
that's the
and
real-
around America and around the rest of the
And
planet.
that's the real thing. And you had asked, like, why are people complaining? Do you use the phone or you don't use the phone? There are places to put these things. Like, put it up on a knoll, put it at a hill, put it a little bit of ways away.
Yeah, get it out in the cow field.
And people should really look at the electromagnetic field that comes out and learn about it. I have really only learned about it when these smart meters came forward.
We're going to run out of time. If we go
Okay.
into a million details, let's keep it on the macro level.
I'm trying.
And with that in mind, in the old days, if you were sick, they used to put leeches all over you, and if you took a bath, you'd probably get sick. In other words, the understanding of science and its effect on human beings has never been perfect, to say the least. In fact, it's been really stupid. And with that in mind, we just don't know, do we? So I'm inclined to err on the side of caution rather than to just put one in my backyard.
I think that we do know. And this is a macro issue.
Right.
Just like they said that they don't know about smoking. If you were to just say,
Right.
look at the exhaust pipe of a car, we're around exhaust pipes of a car all the time. If you go in the garage and you close the door, it's a problem. This is like having a microwave and having the door open. We're not inside the microwave, so
Okay.
it doesn't kill us right away. But it is very close.
All right, that's Felicia. And I had Lori describe it as a slow death.
Soft kill.
And it's a slow cancer. And then Felicia, you have a radio show. Have you been doing shows on this subject?
Yeah, we've done shows on this. We do many. Mine is a community affairs show.
I see. All right, I'm going to go to traffic. I ran you out longer than I think I've ran anyone out.
Okay.
When I come back, if you wouldn't mind, see, you're a radio talk show host.
Yes.
And you do Community Matters on Kauai.
Yes.
And since GMO is in my face to the utmost degree right now, would you spend a little time with me on that?
Sure.
All right, and Lori, you're welcome to hang on and throw your 2 cents in as a grandma
Sure.
and a executive director of, is that right, Princeville Properties?
Princeville Vacations.
And of course, a soccer coach, etc. You're welcome to stay online with us. All right, I'm your solar guy. I got to get out to traffic, and it's probably bad just about everywhere. I hope there's not some 78-year-old Japanese guy driving in front of you on the way from Princeville to Kauai, because you will be in a line of 85 cars while homie just drives along at 45 miles an hour on a 2-lane highway. And that's a bad thing. And of course, on Oahu, you can already know you're bumper to bumper. Lucky you live in Molokai like that. Your solar guy Jeff going out, brought to you by R&R Solar Supply, Hawaii's premier solar supply company. They wholesale products to the solar companies. 2 of their products are being highlighted on the show. BenQ Solar, you'll hear the ad. NX and microinverter. I'd like to thank UH Federal Credit Union, home of the 299 green loan. You go to uhfcu.com. You get a solar system. You get a whether it be water or photovoltaic. You get an electric vehicle. You get good stuff. And the terms on that are fantastic. I'd like to thank the University of Hawaii Research Corporation, Kosi Island Earth. We'll be hearing on Friday from a marine biologist from Honolulu about the mysterious coral disease that's rampaging. I'd like to thank, see who else I want to thank. I want to thank Green Sun Hawaii. I want to thank Hawaiian Legacy Hardwoods. These are the people replanting koa forests on the Big Island. It's a beautiful thing. I'd like to thank Young Brothers. I'd like to thank the Blue Planet Foundation. All those folks help to pay for my show. If you're interested, you get to me at 554-7200. Your solar guy, Jeff. I shall return. Aloha.